Okay, in this unit, I'm going to talk to you about narrative units. What we're describing is a continuous sequence of events unfolding through time. It's impossible to halt the progression within a fixed period since time moves relentlessly forward, an aspect cherished by many scientists as the arrow of time. To call the thermodynamic arrow of time cannot be stopped, no matter how many movies try. If someone were to truly recount The Godfather, it would take years, as we're not just detailing one character's temporal perception, but that of all involved. This complexity requires a comprehensive narrative approach. The initial step is to determine who narrates the story. This is why we discuss narrators and perspectives. Secondly, it's crucial to establish the framework for how the story unfolds and is perceived. Since we can't recount everything, even from one viewpoint, we'll segment the information into parts. We'll cut out information that's not relevant and we'll show pieces of information, and the human mind will complete the picture. This mental continuity creates a peculiar sensation, a feeling that events logically follow one another, that one event follows another. Geneva, a kind of logical continuity. The cut generates that event. Thus, an event can be segmented. Here, we have two edits and discard material, creating the impression of significance in this situation. Discard it, creating the impression that something significant is occurring here, maintaining continuity. And there's something happening here. We don't need to know the details in between, because we naturally fill them in with a logical flow of perception, maintaining continuity ourselves. I want to remind everyone that we are in a bustling city filled with various sounds. Hence, our recording might occasionally be disrupted by unexpected noise. For instance, consider the journey from when one person starts their day until another ends theirs. The house. They get up, walk to the bathroom, shower, collect their clothes, dress, walk, have breakfast, make the bed and leave. Describing the entire process seems pointless since it's universally familiar. Therefore, we might easily skip over it, focusing on key moments instead. Omit these scenes and focus on moments when someone gets up, skipping unnecessary details. Someone has breakfast, while another is outside their home. These are three scenes chosen from a wide array of possibilities. This scenario is described as omitting scenes with lost time between points, focusing on essential moments and skipping unnecessary details. An ellipsis. Ellipses can be condensed, as shown here. The person reaches the metro, buys the ticket, and approaches the machine, waiting for the metro to arrive. Waiting for the metro, it arrives, they board, and now they're on it, where compressed ellipses span 1 minute, 3 minutes, 8 minutes, and 1 minute, marking the passage of time as they travel through the city. 2-minute intervals are marked by small ellipses between each cut. We also incorporate other combinations, featuring broader ellipses. Of 10 years, 10 years, 30 years, 5 years, 8 years, long periods between one event and another. Here it is, fixed. It's the same timeline, just expanded for clarity and detail into large cuts. So much happens in 10 years. One might overlook thousands of crucial details, yet we recognize them now. They have become themselves. Time has passed, and they have aged. One died. Amba Muriel. We can infer that a narrative consists of narrative units and ellipses, forming a cohesive structure that progresses the story forward. There are two main types of narrative units. The first, the most common, the narrative unit is defined by ellipses at both ends, indicating a scene that doesn't revisit the preceding dramatic arc once an event has occurred. Instead, it focuses on new locations, different actions, and typically introduces fresh characters. In our story, we'll refer to each of these segments as narrative units. For instance, there's a scene where the main character speaks at length, followed by one where they are seen swimming alone in a pool. Another unit depicts them sharing drinks and lively conversations with close friends. Unlike a single scene, a group of scenes offers dramatic continuity, narrative flow, and spatial action. These scenes together form a cohesive storytelling unit. For example, we have some friends here drinking, and then we have the friends who get so drunk they start fighting each other. This particular night, the fight escalated quickly, leading to injuries severe enough for both parties to be hospitalized and treated immediately. But one could argue that from the moment they got intoxicated, their behavior took a turn for the worse, leading to this unfortunate outcome. Upon arriving at the hospital, there is a complete arc of integration, of action. Narrative Unit 1, 2, and 3 form a narrative body, and we call this narrative segment a sequence. From Ne Pedro's viewpoint, his timeline can be constructed with scenes and sequences. Each character has distinct scenes, forming a cohesive narrative structure. and sequences. Each character has their own scenes and sequences. In summary, a scene is an integrated unit that happens in the same space and involves the same characters. That is a unit. That happened in the same space? That is a unit. That happened between the same characters. I kid. There are no ellipses in this sentence. A sequence is a linked situation that can involve multiple locations and characters, and where there can be an ellipsis in between. Once you have a complete scheme of this timeline, it becomes clearer. There can be an ellipsis in between. Once you have a full scheme of this timeline, it becomes much clearer. To recall what we're narrating, one might label this segment, which consists of scenes and sequences. This naming helps in organizing and remembering the narrative structure effectively. Single life is a term that can encompass countless scenes and sequences. For instance, Pedro's life. Pedro working, Pedro swimming, Pedro on a date, Pedro's life involves Pedro working, swimming, dating, and more. Pedro's experiences define his single life. Getting drunk with friends, fighting with them, ending up in the hospital, returning to swimming, and working, these experiences define single life. Why call it that? Simply because it came to mind as a fitting label for these varied experiences. It might be Pedro's bad life, Pedro's good life, or Pedro being happy, sad, or anything in between. It could be any name that identifies you and is recognized as a significant narrative segment with numerous units. This name distinguishes your unique experiences. To differentiate it from another name, another lengthy sequence filled with numerous scenes and segments, like learning Italian, a fresh identifier is needed now. In learning Italian, we have Pedro at work, attending Italian classes, breaking up with his girlfriend, hanging out with friends, and in bed, listening to an Italian audiobook. Pedro's journey is a blend of scenes capturing his life and learning experiences. And Pedro is the only one laughing at the jokes and the humor of the Italian teacher. Pedro continues swimming and working. In learning Italian, we see this blend of scenes and sequences named for this group. Pedro's journey is a mix of experiences capturing his life and learning moments. And I call that naming a phase. Within phases, we experience a single life, alongside the journey of learning Italian, capturing moments. If one amplifies and looks down on a script, you might have multiple phases. Life is single. Learning Italian, office crisis, Rome's deception, private lessons, mom's issue. Whatever label we select, it aids in identifying segments. Each element contributes to the narrative, full of scenes and sequences. Just as a sequence has its own integrity arc, this group possesses a narrative integrity arc, but on a larger scale. It can be described as a major sequence composed of multiple sequences and scenes, each contributing to the overarching narrative structure. Finally, as you keep amplifying, we have acts. And as we have acts, we might say in the first act, we have single life, learning Italian, office crisis, the lie of Rome, private lessons, and mom's problem. And all those cluster groups appear in the first act of the narrative. Here we present the entire movie, encompassing all three acts, detailing the phases within each act, and further breaking down into scenes and sequences within those phases. This structure culminates in the complete architecture of the narrative, complete of narrative sequences. Here's the summary. We have the scene, the group of scenes creates a sequence, the group of sequences and scenes creates a phase, and the group of phases creates an act. With that, we have the narrative structure's complete integrity. Let's see how I use this in the script folder. We find ourselves in the script folder. As I examine the entire narrative architecture, I proceed to the timeline of my story. With the timeline in hand, along with the repository of bits, I can see how everything aligns within the broader narrative structure. I'll close it and open a new item called Phases. And within these phases, I will ask myself, what terms should I use to categorize numerous narrative segments in my story? Initially, they are disorganized, but then we arrange them, allowing each to be refined over time. This process aids in structuring the narrative, ensuring clarity and coherence as the story evolves. I'll perform an exercise of 4, starting with a phase named Panic. This will be grouped under Panic. It helps in organizing narrative segments, ensuring clarity. All scenes and sequences from the movie start until someone reaches the center of anxiety therapy. Then I'll have another set of sequences titled Flying Without Anxiety, which will organize scenes into distinct phases, enhancing narrative clarity and depth, which is the name of the quirky therapeutic institute where people confront their fears. All the scenes and sequences in that narrative segment will be named Flying Without Anxiety, a phrase I'll also use for another phase of the project. It's called Bacteria, a project that delves into various scenes set in the academic world and explores the fascinating realm of bacterial life. It also focuses on the biological aspects of the main character. Another phase I will outline is titled Trip to the Airport. One might say the process of nominating a phase for filming near airports has stringent requirements since it only covers the journey to or from an airport. Consequently, submitting such a nomination does not imply including numerous scenes and sequences. We can have a pair of scenes and a sequence, or even just a single scene per phase. However, I find the airport trip significant enough to consider it its own phase. This journey holds enough weight to stand alone. In this scenario, the airport trip comprises a sequence titled Airport Trip and a single scene also called Airport Trip. Another scene might be the eternal farewell. All the parties, farewells, and commemorations are part of this, highlighting the significance of such moments in the journey. Antonia must visit her parents, grandparents, and uncles before leaving the country, sharing moments with them. Miguel accompanies her on this journey. Miguel accompanies her. The big flight refers to the phase encompassing the entire final part of the script, where the final flight instruction is given, where the crisis unfolds. Numerous scenes precede this moment, each one needing to be meticulously named and detailed. I have cast an expansive shadow with an enormous umbrella over that immense narrative gap. The big flight. And so, we create phases and superphases. It's rare to have more than 15 phases in a script. It's unusual to have fewer than 4 phases in a script. We're saying if each phase has, let's envision 3 main sequences, with each containing roughly 3 distinct scenes. Additionally, there will be several connecting scenes scattered throughout these sequences. Altogether, this storytelling approach aims for approximately 120 individual scenes. So, don't stress too much, just as I don't stress now about the number and size of phases. Instead, I focus on organizing them in order and naming the groupings of narrative units. This approach helps in managing the script effectively, ensuring that each part is clearly defined and structured. Naming the script in phases is crucial, as it gives us a weekend to decide how to spend it. This approach helps in organizing and managing the script effectively. Working on ideas for the phase called Bacteria. I forget the script, don't occupy my mind with the entire script. I'm focused on the phase called Bacteria. To capture all, I need to write that story. One might say, for instance, that focusing on one phase enhances creativity. This weekend, during the Bacteria phase, I plan to write only the scenes related to the sequence called Power Outage, focusing solely on them. The sequence called Power Outage. The ability to concentrate so deeply offers a form of creative release, allowing all my energy to be devoted exclusively to that task. One can confidently choose this focus, or opt for something else, knowing it will be effective and purposeful, that it will always be organized. Story creation is simple. Place elements correctly, and there's no need to revisit them later. In the upcoming lesson, I'll discuss the scene and its structure with you in detail.